Hey, good morning, fourth graders. It's Tuesday, April 7th. Today we are working on lesson 710, which is solving multi-step fraction number stories. So we're not going to go through all of these, but this is page 256 in your math journal. And if you look, it gives you all these different, it gives you this table, different activities, and how much time in hours it takes to burn 100 calories. So we're going to be referring to this an awful lot. Again, this is 256 in your math journal. So we're going to solve number 1 and number 2 for sure today and see where that gets us time-wise. But the first one says that Jenna burned about 300 calories playing kickball. So we got to go up here and eventually we got to figure out how many hours she played. But first we got to figure out how long it takes to burn 100. So if you find playing kickball to burn 100 calories is 1/5 of an hour. So I'm just going to write that down here. So 100 calories equals 1/5 of an hour. So this one's pretty easy to solve this initial part. We know that she burned 300 calories. I'm going to write this a little different. I don't think I did a very good job writing that. 1/5 of an hour. So what we know is that she burned 300 calories, and we want to know how long that's going to take. Well, this is kind of one of those ratio type things that we talked about. And if you take a look and you're going from here to here, what would you have to do to go from 100 to 300? Multiply by 3. So that means we need to take this and multiply also by 3. So if it takes 1/5 of an hour, we're going to multiply that by 3 over 1, which is something that we've done a lot of. Go ahead and do that and figure out what your answer would be. 1 times 3 is 3, and 5 times 1 is 5. So it took her 3/5 of an hour. They want to know, did Jenny play more or less than 25 minutes? Now I'm going to be honest with you, you're probably going to want some scratch paper because there isn't a whole ton of work room on 256. So if you don't have scratch paper, you might want to run and grab it. So we know that it took 3/5 of an hour. We also know that an hour is 60 minutes. So we want to know what 3/5 of 60 is. So in order to solve that, what we're going to need to do is take 3/5 times 60 over 1, because we want 3/5 of 60. So I'm going to have you go ahead, pause me, and then solve what 3/5 times 60 would be. When you think you have it, hit play again. Okay. Denominator is easy. 5 times 1 is 5. Okay, and instead of doing 3 times 60, put a 0 down and do 3 times 6. 3 times 6 is 18, so it's 180 divided by 5. Well, that doesn't really tell us the minutes. We know that the following step to that is to divide 180 by 5. And you should be thinking, how many 5s go into 18? Try and solve this right now. If you need help, you can hit play. So if I'm thinking what times 5 equals 18, or gets me close to it, I know that I can only do 3 because 5 times 3 is 15, and I write that under the 18. Now I know that I'm looking at that like an 18, but it's 180. So to make it 150, I put a 0 there and a 0 there, and then I subtract. 0 minus 0 is 0. 8 minus 5 is 3. And now I'm thinking 30 divided by 5. Or how many 5s can go into 30? So 5 times what equals 30? That's 6. 5 times 6 is 30, and subtract, and you get 0. Alright. Add those up. 36. So, did Jenna play for more or less than 25 minutes? The answer is more. And how do we know? We know times 60 that equals 36 minutes. 36 is greater than 25. Therefore, it's more. All right. Taking a look at number 2. This time, it's multi-step in the fact that Katie went for a walk and burned 400 calories. She came home and burned 200 more washing dishes. So the first step is find walking. Okay, walking at a 3-mile pace. It takes 1/3 of an hour to burn 100. So by the walk here, I'm going to put 1/3 of an hour. We also need to figure out washing dishes. It takes 2/3 of an hour to burn 100. So this one, our fraction is 2/3. So we're going to have to do 2 problems here because we want to know time. The first one is if it takes 1/3 to burn 100, how much would it take to burn 400? Well, again, you need to look, what are we doing to get from here to here? And the answer to that, we're going to need to multiply. So it's like multiplying 100 times what is 400? 4. So we're also going to need to take this and multiply by 4 to figure out the fraction for time. So, how many thirds of an hour did it take to burn 400 calories walking? 4 times 1 is, I'm going to do this in a different color. 4 times 1 is 1. 4 times 1 is 4. Oh boy, am I struggling right now. My fault. 4 times 1 is 4, and 1 times 3 is 3. So it took 4/3 of an hour. Now over here, it takes 2/3 of an hour to burn 100 calories washing dishes. We're going to circle this too so we don't lose it. 4/3 equals 400 calories. So she burned 200 calories. Well, what are we multiplying by to get from here to here? We're multiplying by 2, which means that we need to take this and also multiply by 2. Let's see if we can figure out that fraction, solving this. 2 times 2 is 4, and 1 times 3 is 4. So, total, we have 4/3 of an hour spent walking, and 4/3 of an hour spent washing dishes. So it wants to know, what is the total number of hours Katie spent walking and washing dishes? And a correct answer would be to combine the 4/3. So that's probably our first step. Combine 4/3 and 4/3. That means add. So a correct answer would be 4/3 plus 4/3 is 8/3. Because we know when we add fractions, the denominator doesn't change. We're just adding the or subtracting the numerators. So hypothetically, you could put in 8/3 of an hour. But we know that we don't want to leave that as an improper fraction. I'm just going to delete it all and I'll rewrite 8/3. We don't want to leave 8/3 as an improper fraction. We want to know how long they spent doing that. So to do that, we need to do some division here. And it's not as bad as you would think. Because really all we have to do is take 8 and divide it by 3. Go ahead and try and solve 8 divided by 3. How many 3's go into 8? That's 2. 3 times 2 is 6, and subtract. 8 minus 6 is 2. Now, when we're presenting our answer as a mixed number, this is your whole number, the 2 on the side. That's your quotient. Or excuse me, yeah, this is your quotient. Then you have your numerator is a 2 and your denominator is a 3. So they went for 2 2/3 hours. And if you think about it, that makes sense. Because if you have 4/3 and 4/3, each of those is 1 complete hour, because 3 out of 3, another way to look at it would be to think that you have 3/3, which is the same as 1 hour, plus 3/3, which is the same as 1 hour, plus 2/3. That's a way to think about it. So explain how you found your answer. This one's a long one, but you could just briefly say something along the lines of, she walked, I'm going to spell walked wrong, walked 4/3 hours and washed dishes for 4/3 of an hour. That's a total of 8/3 hours. 8/3 as a mixed number is 2 2/3. There's a lot more that we did than that, but I mean we're limited to how much space that we have there. So, with that being said, today's math boxes, we're going to move on to math boxes. This is actually page 255. And again, I know that we have more pages with those. We'll probably do those Thursday as a review. And take a look at your math boxes. If you look, they're previews for Unit 8. So I'm going to assign these. Some of them you're going to be able to do. Some of them might be kind of tricky. And if you're not sure, again, I'll go over these on Wednesday. But if you look at the 4/5, they want you, it's a name collection box. So what that means is they want you to come up with ways that you could make 4/5. So for example, I could put, I'm actually going to make it bigger, make it a little easier for you to see when I work through this. I'm going to do one, and then I'm going to have you do a couple. So you can't do this one. You can do 2/5 plus 2/5. You can't use that one, but I don't need you to fill in this whole thing. I just want you to do 2 boxes, okay? So on box 1, you're just doing 2 boxes. Alright, so this one, you're probably not going to be able to measure it unless you have a protractor home. If you do, that's awesome. But you are going to be able to tell me if this is acute or obtuse. Remember, if it's smaller than a right angle, it's acute. If it's bigger than a right angle, it's obtuse. This one says make this so it's symmetrical. That means on this side of the line, it should look the same as that. Now, what that means is if I folded it, like let's say I could color this with ink and then fold it, and it would make the shape down here. It's a mirror image. It looks the same but kind of going in the opposite direction. On this one I'm going to get real big for. That's kind of hard to see. They want the perimeter of this square. This side right here is 1/10 of an inch. So what's the perimeter? And that's where you got to remember the difference between perimeter and area and what the equation is for that. Over here, I'm going to do A and B right now. You're going to do C and D. So they give you the decimal. That's 40 hundredths. Because I have a 4 in my tenths, a 0 in my hundredths. It goes to my hundredths place, so that means it's 40 hundredths. Now, I know what some of you are saying, well, there's more than one way to write that, and that's true. But being that this goes to hundredths, they probably want me to make it hundredths. So this one would be 40 hundredths. This one is 3/10. I know what some of you are saying. Isn't there a different way to write that? Yes. but because it's 3/10, I have 0 holes and 3/10, so I only have to go to my tenths place. You're going to do C and D. This one, 5 boys went out to gather leaves, each with the same size bag. Each boy filled 2/3 of his bag with leaves. How many bags of leaves did the 5 boys collect? 5 boys, 2/3, 5 times 2/3. Don't leave it as an improper fraction. Make it a mixed number. That's the next step. We got to be working towards that. So that's what I want you to do for math boxes, and I will post those answers for you on Wednesday.